Hi, welcome to my channel, Plant-Based Kindness. My name is Roxanne and today I'm going to show you how to make a super easy recipe, Italian brown rice and tofu. So let's start with the Italian baked tofu. So we're going to start with the marinade, a third cup of lemon juice, quarter cup of oil of your choice, 1.5 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, 1.5 tablespoons of oregano, 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of basil, 1.5 teaspoon of parsley, 1.5 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of marjoram, a quarter teaspoon of thyme, quarter teaspoon of pepper, quarter teaspoon of crushed red peppers or red pepper flakes. And that's it for the Italian marinade. You could use that with tempeh or anything else that you'd like. But I made up a rule that you can't use my recipe with meat. Just kidding. I'm using a package of super firm tofu and it's already pressed, but if you're using extra firm tofu it's not pressed, you should press it before you cube it and add it to the marinade, because if your tofu is not pressed, it's filled with water and so the marinade can't get in, and for tofu to be good, it really needs some flavor, you know what I'm saying? And because fat carries flavor and tofu is low in fat, you really need to do more than just sprinkle a few spices and be done with it. And you really need to add oil to your marinades in order to have maximum flavor. That's why if you're cooking a steak, you can just sprinkle, a few spices and the fat within the meat is going to carry the flavor. But with tofu, you gotta get in there. Don't use a quarter teaspoon, use a tablespoon. Well, maybe not always, but you get the idea. Alright, anyway, sorry about that. Back to the recipe. So my tofu is marinating. I like to marinate it for about 4 to 6 hours, but you don't have to marinate it that long. So now we're starting with the brown rice, the Italian brown rice. So I'm starting with 1.5 tablespoons of oil, 1 cup of small chopped onion, 2 on a vine tomatoes chopped with the seeds removed. You cook that for about 5 minutes. Then you add 4 to 5 minced garlic cloves, cook that for a minute, stir it around, then you add your rice. I'm using 1 cup of short grain brown rice. Obviously, if you use a different kind of rice, you'll have to use different ratio of vegetable broth, and it will likely take less time to cook because brown rice takes about 45 minutes to cook. Okay, so let's add the seasonings. So I'm doing a teaspoon of nutritional yeast, a teaspoon of oregano, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, half teaspoon of onion powder, quarter teaspoon of garlic powder, quarter teaspoon of marjoram, quarter teaspoon of thyme, quarter teaspoon of crushed red peppers, and quarter teaspoon of pepper. And usually for these kinds of recipes, when I make them just at home for dinner, what I like to do is just mix the spices and seasonings ahead so I can just dump the spice bowl right into the rice, and then I add quickly the vegetable broth, mix it, cover, and let simmer. But for the recipe, I show them one by one. But I like to mix them ahead before I start or while the onions are cooking, so that way it's just really fast and easy and nothing sticks to the pan. So we're gonna let that simmer covered for about 45 minutes, and then you wanna let your rice rest for at least 15 to 20 minutes. And so this is what the marinated tofu looks like. I'm using my food saver just because I bought this, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, before when I ate meat, and I still have the plastic thingies, and so now I use it to marinate tofu and tempeh and all this vegan stuff. So now what you want to do is we're gonna bake it in a preheated oven to 450 degrees. But one thing is you wanna drain the extra oil. You don't want the extra spices and herbs and the oil, because the tofu will not get as crispy, and so you can take them out each by one or just drain the oil completely, but what you can do is keep the marinade and do something else with it. So like I said, we baked the tofu at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 to 30 minutes, but that depends on your oven, how crispy you like your tofu, and what tofu you're using. Are you using extra firm, super firm like I am? It all depends. And also you want to turn or flip your tofu about halfway to make sure it's crispy on both sides. Okay, so now I let my rice rest, but I noticed that I undercooked it a little bit, so I'm gonna let it rest some more. And now I'm ready to serve. Now, of course, you can serve them both together, but just because I had to take some pictures of both of them, I decided to serve them separately. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Here's a few pictures. I hope you like this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!